Satnam and welcome. I'm Param Dev and this is Param Devi. And this is Chronicles of a Spiritual Warrior.
I forgot.
So now we are starting off how Param Devi wanted to start off with my maniacal laugh. So hope it doesn't scare you all away. But we're here today to talk about demons. And now a lot of people think about demons and they sort of think about, like the movies or like the TV shows that are out now and the very overt things that they show in movies, like someone with big horns and, very ugly looking and looks like some sort of, creature, a creature out of hell. Yeah, but real demons are a lot more subtle than that most of the time. They can be scary. Most of the time, they're so subtle that you wouldn't even really. Most people, I think a lot of people have problems with demons, but they don't really know it because our world's become so desensitized to the spiritual, and it seems like, and when you bring, if you somebody would bring up the subject in like a group setting or like in a setting like that, you would get ridiculed and laughed at because that's kind of the mystique that's been around this subject for a while, unfortunately. But the truth is something very, very different.
So what does an actual demon look like?
Well,
Or-
well, that really depends. That depends on how it wants to look because it doesn't have a corporal form, and so it can change. Depending upon what it. Because what happens with the demons, what happens with these demons is they feed on the lower energies. They feed on the lower emotions. They feed off of anger. They feed off of stress. They feed off of worry and all those lower emotions, even lust, greed, all those.
Okay.
Yeah. And so they can appear to you and they may not even appear to you. They just may do things to manipulate you. Most of the times they don't appear to you.
Yeah.
I like the saying, the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist. And so if you think about it like that, they don't really want to appear to you most of the time.
Yeah.
Because unless they're trying to make you scared,
Yeah.
which they can feed off of, but they also feed off all these other emotions too.
Yeah.
So they can bring about disharmony in your
Yeah.
environment.
Yeah, I don't think
Yeah.
anyone has actually seen an actual demon besides like those crappy films that you can see on like a Nokia 3 in the
Yeah.
middle of the dark, in the middle of nowhere. Like, hey, there's a little dot out there. I'm pretty sure it's a demon or an alien or whatever.
Yeah.
But no one ever has actually seen one.
Probably not. Yeah. For the most part, no. And I have to agree with that. And they don't. They do that on purpose.
Yeah.
And so but they generally cause a lot of disharmony within an environment. And so that's probably the biggest telltale sign if there is a demon around, if there's a lot of disharmony in a space.
Okay. So
Yeah.
how can you tell if there is? Because you can have disharmony from other kind of situations. I don't know, from the environment or like because there's a lot of noise or because the people in there just don't get along.
Yeah.
So at what point do you know that it's because of a demon?
Well, that's where you got to get to the root of it. And so, and sometimes that that superficial, what you were talking about there, like the people, well, what would cause them to be that way? Well, is there some sort of demonic influence, pulling the strings? There could be, some definite signs. There's a lot of disharmony. You go into a place, and if you've been to a place, you walk in like instantly, you just feel like a certain sort of like heaviness.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a telltale sign, that heaviness. And especially when nobody else is there. So if you walked into like a specific, even just one room, or like a house or any environment, you walk into something and something just doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
Not that you're scared or not, it's just like, come in here and it's just kind of like,
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you just walk in a room and like you instantly feel some sort of strong emotion.
Yeah.
That's a clear sign, especially those lower emotions like greed, lust, anger, those strong emotions, because those are what they feed off of.
Yeah, I have experienced that.
Yeah.
I could be having a very, very good day, and as soon as I pull up in the driveway, I start to get angry about pretty much anything. Every little stuff that I see that in the front yard, there's like a leaf that fell off the tree, and I'm like, why the hell didn't they mop or clean the sideway? Why is this tree here? And then I go inside, and if there's someone there, then you better be prepared for like everything to go bad, because I'm just gonna, like, the first person I see is like, and why are you here, and why didn't you do this, and why are you bothering me, and why? And if there's no one there, I still try to find stuff to get angry about. Like, the house could be perfect, and I would still be like, oh, there's nothing to eat now, and now I have really noticed on how much, even if I had a very, very good day, the second I stepped into the house was like, okay, now the day's ruined, and now I want to get angry, and sometimes I don't even know why. And I think that's a very weak sign too.
Oh yeah.
That sometimes you are angry because, of course, you're allowed to get angry and to have those emotions naturally.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
But there are times that you're like, why do I even act like this? That you know that you're acting crazy, and you're still doing it, and you can't seem to stop it. So I think that's also a way you can differentiate it. I know, I try to notice now when I'm angry because something actually happened that made me angry, or when I'm angry just because I want to make someone else angry too.
Yeah. Yeah, and another sign of demonic infestation is that there's a general discord, between everybody in that particular environment, no matter what.
Yeah.
And it always seems to be there's something bubbling in the background.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you can relate to that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think it's also very easy to also get the other people in the house. Like, if I arrive and they are perfectly fine, and I sense this energy, then I can say something to them, and in a second they are also like, yeah, well, you were the one that didn't take out the trash. I'm like, yeah, but you were the one that didn't put the correct back.
Yeah.
Okay, well, and then everyone's angry. And it probably stays like that for the rest of the day, or it's also even kind of hard that someone is the one that's like, hey, let's just take a second to think this or to talk about it or whatever. Everyone just seems to explode and just like, okay, whatever, and everyone goes into the room.
Yeah, and that's the discord I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And even if you're just, you go by and like you're going to a room and all of a sudden like you just feel like horny. It's like, I'm so horny and I don't know why. It's just because they're feeding on that energy. You know, they create that environment. There was in the past they kind of they put demons into different categories.
Okay.
And they would like some categories would be like for the fear. Some categories would be for the anger, you know, and so on and so forth. But the ones for lust they called incubi and succubi.
Yeah.
So they were the ones that caused the horniness that fed off that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you have one, could you have different types just in one space, or is it the same one all the time?
No. It's they invite their cousins. You know, the tios, all the tios and the primos and everything. Yeah. Tios, everything. Aunts and uncles for those of you who no hablo español.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense, because if you have like just the lost one, there's only so much you can do with that.
Exactly.
Like if you decide to, not gonna do anything about it, just gonna go on with my day, then it starts going to die off. But if you invite the cussing, like, okay, we have anger now, then I guess they even kind of like interlace at some point of like, okay, I'm feeling horny and I can't do anything about it, so now I'm gonna get angry.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. And like some of the ancient philosophers or magicians or whatever you want to say, the people who kind of studied this, they called themselves demonologists.
Yeah.
They even categorized them and said, okay, well, there's like basically kind of like a boss man, you know, and the boss demon, you know, says, okay, you succubi go in there, you make them horny, you know, or you know, now the angle ones go in there and make them pissed off, or you know,
okay.
Yeah.
So it's like an actual like boss controlling everything.
Yeah.
And then, there's actually a Mexican show about that.
Okay.
Makes a lot of sense. There's like this character that's a demon, and he has a bunch of TV screens like in his room, and he's watching every single situation that's going on, and he's like, that one, and he just pulls like a lever, and then like the person falls, or the person gets run by a bus or something.
Yeah.
And he's like there manipulating every single thing and laughing and just being like, so that's exactly how I picture it.
Yeah, that's kind of how it is, you know. That's how I understand it, and that's how the demonologists have explained that. You know, they said there's this demon, you know, up above here, you know, and he's kind of like running things, and he says, okay, you get in there now and go do your thing, and you know, go run amok in this, you know, in this area, you know, go make that one horny, you know.
Yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, like a lot of those things are actually shown like in cartoons or TV shows.
Yeah.
But we're just not aware of it, as you said, like at the beginning. Like that sounds a lot like, okay, this TV show, Mexican TV show.
Yeah.
But then in a lot of movies, there's like this classical character that you have a tiny demon on your ear whispering you stuff, and you have a little angel on the other whispering you like, no, don't do it.
Yeah.
But as like the little ones, I related like that, like, okay, the big one sent me, so now I'm just gonna be here next to you whispering like, yes, do it.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, we often just see it as, yeah, that's funny, as if that's going to happen in real life.
But in reality, it does, and that's the thing. That's kind of the situation that our society has put us in. That they put in that spirituality in such a light that anything, you know, tried to bring up in a serious manner is laughed at because of that. You know, because I saw that in a cartoon, or I saw that in that specific TV show, or things like that, and that's why a lot of people are led to believe that that's not true.
Yeah. Okay. So what other signs can you use to tell if you have at least in your house. Not that I have a particular problem with that.
I mean, there's there's a lot of subtleness to it. So that's why it's so hard to kind of like pinpoint, because then it's real easy to say, oh well, that's because this and this person, or but what about what was behind all that?
Yeah.
And so it's not a real straightforward answer, unfortunately. So unfortunately, I can't be like, you can't say, okay, well that's definitely a demon, or that's definitely, this or that. Well, no, and that's another reason why it's been put in this light too, because it science can't, prove it.
Yeah, and I guess it becomes a lot more clear once you're in the spiritual path. As you said, it's very filled with light, and it's a very magical and nice path. But it also has a pretty dark side. As you become sensitive to all the good energy, and you're filling yourself up with good thoughts and everything, it also starts like you open up like a portal or a gate, and anything can go in there.
Oh yeah.
And you're aware not only of the good but also of the bad.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
I guess one way to know that if it's actually a demon is to develop this kind of intuition and
develop your sensitivity to it, so that way you're more aware of like these outside feelings, versus like inside feelings.
Yeah.
Like, why am I feeling this? Why am I feeling that?
Yeah.
I know my encounters with demons have been, it's like I'll go into like a specific place, and that's infested with a demon, and I just feel like just very unmotivated to do anything. I'll go in there, with the intention of doing a lot of things there, and then I don't get half the stuff done I want to do because I feel very demotivated, and that's because of that external force.
Yeah, you're right. I have noticed that one too.
Yeah.
Like also during the day before or something, I make a whole list of stuff that I want to do, and even like which ones I'm going to do first, and then the next day comes and I'm just like, nah.
Yeah.
And I know it's not coming from me just being lazy, because I really want to do those stuff.
Yeah.
But it's just like, well, I can stay here in bed a little bit longer, or I can. What will happen if I don't do anything?
Or some emergency pops up,
Yes.
Yeah.
That usually happens.
And that totally derails everything that you wanted to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really, really common. Now I have noticed it. Whenever I want to do something important, like something gets in the way, and it's so noticeable. Like, oh, I want to do this, or like, literally before coming here, half an hour earlier, the trash can set on fire in the house.
Yeah.
So I was like, damn, now I have to put out the fire, and I'm gonna be late, and I'm probably gonna miss a flight if I don't deal with this quickly.
Yeah.
So it's also, I guess, like the kind of emergencies and situations that happen that are very out of the normal. Like if something happens and you're like, oh, I want to do this, and then I don't know, someone breaks a plate. Well, that's pretty normal. You can swipe it in 5 minutes and go on. But if it's something like, okay, someone broke a plate and then someone stepped on it and fell, and now they broke their head, and now you have to
take them to the emergency room. Yeah.
That's like, how did that happen? Like this fire, still no one knows who started it. And it's those kind of things that you're like, how did this happen out of nowhere?
Yeah. Yeah, 2 days before I came here, then, or 3 days, or no, about a week before I came here, I guess, right? Yeah, Ramdas's house caught on fire.
Couple of days too. Yeah.
You know, or it's just, it's like, out of the blue, it's just kind of like, all right, well, how. And so it's just there's always something that comes up.
Yeah.
When you're involved with this energy, and of course we do live in a very dualistic world. So there's always that yin and yang.
Yeah.
And as you become more spiritual and more aware, you'll start to notice these things. These darker entities around.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I think also for me, one thing that happened quite frequently, and I wasn't aware of it until I started to be more conscious about everything, was that I misplaced and lost a lot of stuff.
That's another sign.
Yeah.
That's another sign. Yeah, losing things.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it's just saying like. And a lot of people would equate it to like, oh, well, somebody moved this.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's in keeping in that frustration and that anger.
Yeah, definitely. And I noticed that because even at some point I thought that I was getting crazy. Like I have literal dementia or something, and I'm young. I don't have dementia. So I was like, or do I have now TDAH?
ADHD.
In Spanish it's different. So and do I have that now, or did I always had it, or why am I misplacing so many stuff? Because in the past I didn't. So sometimes I remember one day I was coming home from an event I had, and I had in my head like a scarf like the one that I do now.
Yeah.
So when I got in the car, I took it off and I placed it like in the seat next to me, to not have it like in my face driving home. And then when I got home, it wasn't there. And I do remember like I rushed to get into the house and everything, but I remember perfectly having still the scarf on my head and putting it there. And still to this day, I haven't found it. And I asked everyone in the house, or if I had probably it had fallen off on the way there, but I was like, no, I am so completely sure that I had it with me.
Yeah.
And I never found it, and a lot of stuff happened like that, stuff that I would have in my literal hands.
Yeah.
And then a second later, they disappeared. And if I ask people, usually if I'm with someone, I'll tell them like, hey, did you notice that this thing fell off my hand or something? They're like, no. Even like big stuff. Like I had once this very big battery that I was taking to a trip. I had it in my hand, and by the time I got to the airport, I was looking for it and I couldn't find it. So if that had fallen off, I would have definitely heard it.
Oh, yeah.
Or someone would have told me like, hey, this thing fell off or something. And I don't know what happened to it. So a lot of tiny stuff of like, yeah, I'm pretty sure someone moved it, but also living with someone and you're like, hey, did you move my glasses? They're like, no, I haven't even seen them.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess also asking other people has helped me to be like, okay, so you remember I had this thing here. Yes, it's gone. And they're like, okay, that's weird. Like, people will also find that weird, but they, again, will try to be like,
rationalize it.
Well, probably you didn't notice and you placed it somewhere else, or probably this happened, but yeah, I think at some point it's just like, okay, I didn't move anything. You didn't move anything.
Well, I've literally seen something disappear right before my very eyes, and there was like 6 people in the room to witness it, like 5 or 6 people. It was crazy. So we were all standing around. We just came from a gem fair. It was like me. It was like me, Jesus, one of our friends, Christian, and even Jesus' mom was there. So there was like 5 of us, 4 or 5 of us, or whatever it was. And we were all standing around. We're showing each other what we got. And Christian had bought like these carnelian beads.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so they were tiny. They weren't like super big, but they were probably like, you know, they're about this big. Like,
Yeah.
You know, so something like that. And and one just fell down on the ground because he bought them like loose. You know, that he just didn't buy like a whole strand. He just bought like a few of them, and they were like loose. And one just, you know, fell on the ground. So literally it bounced like, you know, like right in front of me. So I went to pick it up, and then I opened my hand, and I was surprised it wasn't in there. And everybody's like, well, what happened to the bead? I'm like, I don't know. I went to pick it. I picked it up. I felt it in my hand, but then when I opened my hand, it was gone.
Yeah.
It was literally gone. You know, and we were all sitting around at like different angles.
Mm-hmm.
So the only time nobody could see it was when I had my hand over it and went to pick it up, and then it was, you know, it was gone.
Yeah.
You know, we looked around that entire kitchen. We moved. There was like we had bookshelves there. It was like a dining room kind of like kitchen area. So we moved around. Like we even moved around the shelves. Could not find it. We ended up finding it like a few years later, and it was under one of the bookshelves.
Yeah.
One of the ones we moved.
Yeah, that happens a lot. It happened to me too. And like, I was looking also for like this package of like medicine that I had bought.
Yeah.
And I had placed it exactly in my night table, and in the morning it wasn't there. And I moved everything also because I thought, well, maybe if it fell, and it should be there.
Yeah.
I moved everything, and it wasn't there. And a couple of months later, I moved the bed like a tiny bit, and I just could hear it drop from the bed. And I was like, this wasn't here. I swear this wasn't here.
Yeah.
Not crazy.
Yeah.
Please, no. So yeah, I guess I call them also like, I don't know if that's the same or it's different. I call them the elves, which I don't know if it's the actual demon or if it's an actual elf that's like they're also to help. Like, you know, they like to move stuff around and play with your head a little bit. So I don't know if it's the same.
Well, I mean, in different cultures, it's different. You know, so like there was definitely Irish folklore. They call them fairies.
Yeah.
You know, so they say, oh well, the fairies moved it, or you know, things like that. You know, but it's also very common in folklore and superstition. So yeah, so different cultures just have different names for them.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's all the same.
Yeah, I guess. Okay. So what other signs can we?
Well, I think those are probably the main things.
Okay.
You know, generally the heaviness and the discord among, you know, people, and you know, the misplacing, quote unquote, misplacing of things. You know, and it's not really you; it's misplacing them. It's things are being moved on you.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes, like even in extreme cases, you'll have things like appear out of thin air too, almost. And I think what's classical about just to cover one more thing about the missing things. What's classical about that stuff is it'll appear someplace you've already looked.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that has happened to everyone.
Yeah.
In the world.
Yeah, and it'll be like you looked there like a million times, but then you'll find it there like a couple days later, the exact place where you looked for it.
Yeah.
The exact place. And it makes you feel like you're nuts.
That's why I thought, like, along all this spiritual path that I was probably getting crazy and starting to see stuff that is actually not there.
Yeah.
But it is.
Yeah,
or
it is.
isn't. Whichever way you want to see it.
Yeah.
also, I guess what helped me is to know that we can change it. So, what would you recommend doing? Like, okay, now I noticed that there's a demon in my house. Like, I noticed the energy. I noticed like the missing stuff.
Yeah.
Then what?
I would recommend that you either start doing this yourself or you have somebody cleanse that space to kind of exercise that space. I know that that word is used it's overused. Exorcism.
Yeah.
And it's very overused. But essentially, what you're doing is you're just taking back your space. And of course, there is a common thing for demons to do when they take over an area is they make what's called vortexes or vortices, in plural. So they make different vortices inside your dwelling. And these can be kind of like gateways in one sense. In another sense, they can literally suck all like the joy out of a room.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. And so they set up these areas, and that's also helps to move the energy in a bad way. That's why you kind of feel that heaviness when you come into those places, because they've set up these vortices and strategic locations to suck all that energy out, and as gateways so they can bring in more of their tios and primos and everything.
They're a little party over
there. So and so what you want to do is you want to number one, cleanse those areas. And I do show a way on my channel, on my YouTube channel, Yogic Living. I have a recipe, if you will, or some exercises you can do to cleanse the space yourself. Of course, you can always use sage and stuff, but I found like if you have problems with demons, sage only lasts so long. It only lasts for about a week.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really help to kind of push things out. It just kind of temporary, puts a Band-Aid on the area.
Yeah.
Whereas the method that I show on my channel has a longer duration. It can last, at the minimum like a year. So that's a lot more beneficial.
Yeah.
And of course, then after you clear the areas, then it's important to close those vortices. And you can do that with crystals and things of that nature.
Okay.
Yeah. Sound good?
Good.
Yeah.
So, is there a particular story that you have dealing with demons? And like how did you notice them and how you dealt with them, or what happened?
I have a lot of stories.
That's what this podcast is about. Or what was like when you first started to encounter them and like fighting them, I guess?
Well, I kind of got it thrown in my lap because of a particular situation that my teacher had. We found that me and some other students found that he was kind of wasn't himself, and I felt that there was something else there, and it wasn't only me that felt that. There were several other people that came to that conclusion as well, and so we took steps to negate that. But the task fell on me then to cleanse the house, if you will. And so, I've been taking up that torch, and and it's not when there's an old manifestation, because unfortunately, with his place, with his house, there's been demonic activity there for years and years and years.
Okay.
And so it's harder to kind of root out.
Yeah.
And the process takes a lot longer. You know, but it has gotten better over the years. You know, because of the efforts that I put in and other people have put in to cleanse that space. And you know, and especially if you have a lot of junk, I guess that's I don't really know how else to put it. If you have a lot of junk, like not doesn't mean necessarily you're a hoarder, but you have a lot of things that you aren't using. And that creates a lot of stagnant energy.
Yeah.
And so whenever you have something that's, you know, let's say it's dark and you haven't like touched, you know, these things in this area for like years, and there's dust like this thick on it, you know, and that's not good energetically speaking.
Yeah.
And those areas are kind of where they hang out. And so if you have things, you know, or areas like that, and you're not willing to get rid of that stuff, then it's really hard to close those vortices and to kind of cleanse that energy out, to get that energy, you know, moving again. You know, but if you have an area where, you know, people are willing to, you know, sort of, you know, if not get rid of all that stuff, you know, at least reorganize it and, you know, dust it off every once in a while, you know, and clean it and cleanse that space. Then you'll create an environment that's counter to that energy, and you'll raise the vibration of that environment. Does that make sense?
Yeah, there's a reason why most scary movies start in the basement
or
in an attic or someplace like the classical haunted house that no one's been there like for ages. And it's exactly like that. So again, we have this information all over. But we're like, we either think it's funny or that it's not actually going to happen in real life. And also I guess because from horror movies we have kind of learned that, okay, you go into this house, but unless there's like stuff floating around and unless the walls are dripping with blood and that there's a literal corpse in the middle of the room that just came alive, it's like, unless there's not that, then you don't have to worry about anything. So you may come into a room or a house or anything and feel all of this, feel even like with light, like there's no sunlight, everything's cluttered, the bad energy, but you're like, well, no corpse or anything dead here, so it's pretty much alright. And I think I noticed that especially with my brother's room, because my brother, I don't know why, for the longest time, he didn't want the sun to come into his room at all. He was going, I don't know, through his vampire face. He even put up like some black cardboard in the windows, like taped it. The whole window wouldn't even come a single ray of light. And he was always there just like on his phone and like not doing anything, pretty lazy. And when we went into cleaning his room, that was the hardest one that I have cleansed. And then like looking back at it, it was like, okay, it's because he never opened up the windows. Eventually he took them off because we were like, okay, this is not even healthy. You're not getting like any air circulating, you're not getting the sun, he also, it's a little bit messy, so you're getting everything stuck here. But by cleaning it, I was also like, wow, this was a very, very like highly charged place. And after we cleansed it, he was like, oh, I actually feel better now. I'm not saying that he's now like marathon runner that he has now like I don't know, the motivation to just get up and do everything every day, but he does say that he's been feeling a lot better and that he had never even noticed that it could be not him, the one that wasn't feeling like that, but it was something else.
Exactly. Well, did you have any other questions for me, Param Dev?
I have a lot.
Okay.
But I think those should be separate episodes, like even on house cleansing.
Okay.
I think it would be nice to get into the whole details of it.
We can do that.
How you can like do the cleansing, because there are different ways to do that.
Definitely.
But as far as demons, I think so far no, as to identify how some demon can be. Well, I guess just the last one, like we're talking a lot about places, but there could also be like within someone. So I guess those are pretty much the same signs, which is what we usually know as also an exorcism, or like you're being possessed and everything. So I guess first of all, not get carried away again with the idea we have of a possession. Of like, again, oh well, if the person's not like rolling its eyes backwards and walking like on the floor, or
their head is turning around, you know, like, you know.
Unless it's not like that, then it's fine.
I think it's a lot more subtle, and I think there's probably a lot more demon possession than a lot of people realize, and I think that that they have unfortunately like misdiagnosed a lot of people, and they want to try to cure it with drugs. You know, the psychotropic drugs, you know, in today's society, and I don't feel that's the right way, and I feel like a lot of the root of that is because of demonic influence. And that's been my experience at any rate, you know, with people with psychological problems. I even had a friend who had multiple personality disorder, and it seemed there was a lot of spiritual side to it.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, and it wasn't just, you know, all in his head. And crazy things happened around that time, you know, with him, you know, when he had multiple personalities. And he could do like weird stuff. You know, it was and having to deal with it on myself, that kind of got thrust upon me. And but having to deal with that was definitely a trying time.
I guess a lot of most of them mental illnesses do have, or their source is an actual spiritual one. Especially the ones that are like this extremes of multiple personalities, schizophrenia, all that. I also had it like with one of my family members that also at some point from how much it fluctuates, because I guess it's the same. You can have just one demon, or you can have a lot of them. Or they switch turns and they're like, okay, I'm gonna go take a little vacation and I will come back, but you take over in the meantime. It became so hard for doctors and psychiatrists to diagnose what he had, because sometimes they were like, oh well, he has symptoms of like schizophrenia, oh but he also has this one, some like bipolarity, oh but he has this one's more like depression, and they're like kind of are kind of opposite to each other, because some of them would be like, well, if he has depression, then he shouldn't be having like these other symptoms of being like hyper like aroused about everything. And also if he has like bipolarity, then he shouldn't be this other way. So it just kind of came back and forth to a point that when he went once with a psychiatrist, he literally told him, like, what you need to get done is an exorcism. Go find whatever kind, if you're Catholic, if you're like whatever religion, or if you don't believe in any religion, just get like some of those cleansing things that you can find in Mexico with like an egg or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen the cleansings done with the egg, and it's like I've had cleansings done with the egg before too, honestly. You know, and it's effective, you know, so it works.
Yeah, but I mean, we were very surprised at that time. That was a lot of years ago. Of like the doctor, the psychiatrist. It was also like in this very big hospital, like very well known. So we were like, this guy told you that he can't help you with therapy, but that you have to get an exorcism. And initially, like a lot of people in the family took it like, well, I guess he's not even that good or whatever. But now, like, we're looking back into it, and we're like, well, he was definitely right. Like, he knows that the actual root cause of this is the spiritual and mental side of it. Not so much like the physical part of your brain. That, of course, it has some stuff there, but not as the main reason why it's there.
I saw this documentary one time. And I think they were trying to highlight I don't know if they were trying to like so much highlight like the backwardness of some places, but like, and I forget what issue the person had, but they ended up like taking them in to get an exorcism. It was like it was in some country, it might have been like Africa or something like that, and the person started acting very strange, you know, and something like we would probably diagnose, like here in the West, we would probably diagnose as like schizophrenia or something like that, or you know, or some sort of disorder like that. But they went in and they did an exorcism on it, and I think the exorcism lasted like a few days or something. They even had to like tie the person up or you know whatever, you know. But you know, after the exorcism, guess what?
Oh, good.
They were fine. Yeah, they didn't have any of those symptoms. They didn't have to take drugs for years and years and years. They didn't have to go through like years of psychotherapy or you know anything. You know, it was one exorcism.
Yeah, I guess also that switch for like Eastern and Western medicine. That was like such a big change of like, oh, you have something, well then there's this pill for it. Instead of acknowledging that all of our bodies are together to conform us as a whole being. And if there's something wrong with your head, then it's also probably wrong with your stomach. And there's also probably something wrong with your higher self up there that you don't even know.
Yeah, there's a spiritual side, there's a physical side, and there's a mental side. You know, it's all, and they're all
related.
They all go hand in hand.
Okay, good. Well, I think I don't have any more questions.
Okay.
I have definitely noticed the pattern of that, like, and I guess start noticing all those kind of stuff that you see on the movies and TV or some other shows. They are actually telling you stuff. They're just trying to ridiculize it and to make it look like.
It's so funny. Like I don't know if I know you'd never watched like or you didn't get into horror movies that much.
No.
But there was this particular like popular one called Paranormal Activity.
Oh yeah.
Have you heard about that?
I heard about it. I think I even saw one. I never watch horror movies because of the same. I know watching them, it's like if I have this gate open, it's allowing.
Oh yeah, it could. It very much could. You know, and that's another unfortunate part. You know, in our society today, they don't realize that. You know, even watching that stuff can open that gate. But I watched that movie, and I literally laughed through the whole thing. I was like, the stuff they showed in it was so ridiculous. So ridiculous, you know? And it's just like, and it's so ridiculous and so predictable too. Like the guy even was like Googling, how do I get rid of this demon? Like, he does the thing you definitely don't do. Burn the Ouija board. I'm like, yeah, that's gonna help. I was laughing through the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it's again, like some of those stuff could happen.
Yeah.
But since they take it to the extreme of ridiculousness,
Yeah.
then you're gonna be like, oh, of course that's not it. Of course that's not. But there's a reason why you keep being scared about it, because you know that it could actually happen.
Yeah. Well, two reasons. Because you know it could happen on potentially, but not to that, most of the time not to that extreme. Very rare cases where you actually get anything that's like, you know, moving around and throwing, you know, at you. Yeah, there are some instances like that, yes, but a lot of times, like they don't want to draw that much attention to themselves. Honestly. Yeah. You know, most of the time it's just like, I don't know, we're just happy, like, you know, causing discord in your life.
Yeah.
We're happy at this level. We don't need to take it to that extreme where we go around and throw shit at you.
Yeah, because then they know that you're gonna do something about it.
Exactly.
Which is what happens usually when you are determined to, like, okay, I'm gonna do the cleansing today.
Yeah.
And they know about it, and they create some situation or whatever, so that you don't do it.
Yeah, it's far more easier for them to do that than just, you know, to be like, you know, cause chaos in your house and, you know, like, shake the whole house and, you know, throw stuff at you and, you know, or possess somebody and try to kill you.
Yeah.
And it's like, and that's sort of that's against what they want anyways, because a true parasite does not want to kill their victim. Or does not want to, because they have a codependency.
Yeah.
They feed off you.
Yeah.
So they don't want to kill you. They want to feed off you. They want to feed off that negative emotion. They want to keep you down.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Do you have anything else to share?
I think that's the main things that I wanted to cover in this topic, and I want to thank you again for helping me to have like a sounding board, you know, to be able to talk to you. So thank you for being here, Param Dev. I appreciate you, and I think that that concludes this broadcast.
Okay.
All right.
So there you have it, kids.
Yeah. So if you have any questions, of course, you know, you can leave those in the comments below, and you know, we'll answer them. And if there's a lot, you know, a lot of questions, you know, we may even do another topic about, you know, or another podcast about this. We're do this every month, you know, so be sure to like, subscribe. And you know, leave your comments, and so that way, you know, we can answer your questions, or you know, if you want to know more about a specific or weird thing, or you're having some sort of issue, you're being attacked in your dreams, or you're or something like that, or you know, or anything. You know, I've been through a lot of stuff, you know, as any of you that have read my book know. So I've kind of been put through the ringer. You know, God's kind of tested me in that way, but fortunately, it's made me stronger. You know, and so I persevered, and you know, I'll let you know the things that I've done to encounter, you know, or to deal with those things. You know, so. Yeah. And all right, sign off. Why could you